Hi all, welcome back to more of the other side of the hill solo. That's me up to part 20 now. So didn't get anything done yesterday, but I'm getting a bit in here. So I'd like to think I might get a couple of parts here today. I've got 2 shares free, so hopefully we can do that. Right, a few things to talk about first. Few sort of important things. Where should I start? Well, let's first start off from what's the guy? I actually don't know the guy's name. Beredis. Is that what I'm seeing? That looks like the name coming up. Beredis. I don't know if there was a name there or not. Apologies if there is, but anyway, he's made a few comments. Pretty much working his way through the videos. I think these are from part 6, to be honest, so quite a bit back. He's left quite a few comments. I won't go into all of them. Some of them are just sort of putting his take on how he sees things and whatever. But there's a couple of good ones that came up. And I'm not saying they're not all good. I'm just saying that these were things that I hadn't thought about or I'd forgotten about, or like I've said about this game, which I'm going to go into a wee bit more again. I think there seems to be a lot of little rules to that can catch you out. It could just be me. Everybody else might be able to cope with these rules quite comfortably, but that's how I'm finding that they're a bit of a struggle. Alright, okay. Sorry, I got my other pair of glasses, and these are slightly different actually. I'm not so sure. I think I might need the other ones. Anyway, so yeah, right. One of the ones that I took note of was I think he muddled up his first comment. I wasn't sure I understood him, and it's regarding the AG head anyway. Like I say, all these comments are on my YouTube videos if you want to go and look at them fully. Regarding the AG head, it's on page 25 of the rule book. And yes, I remember reading all these things. I remember reading because I have read. I've said before, and I'm not. This isn't. I'm genuinely saying that I've read through this rule book 3 times completely, from cover to cover. I've definitely done that, and obviously you're looking back on other things as well. So I've read these things before. Anyway, page 25, and not that this has come up, but I think I may have been talking about it. I think all these things that he's made comments on, I'm talking about these things. So the really important rule, again, it's one of the important rules in the sort of orangey coloured box. It says the special effect may be cancelled if the specific rule of the general and the AG head allow it, and then it's got in bold, even if there is no allied attack. So let's just say let's just pick let's just pick this card here. This is the top card in the top combat card in the discard pile. So if we drew this, let's just say we drew this, and it's the Soviet faction. It's a Soviet offensive phase, and it's in 1941. And you can see that them attacking. You've got that symbol, and we know what that one is. That's the strategic event card. So you've got that, but let's also just say, and in fact, I need to bring a guy out of here anyway. Give me a sec. So let's just say that we've got this guy as an AG head. He's come out the activated box just now, but I think he's the culprit to a mistake that I've made. Again, another little, well, you could say all these rules are easily forgettable, but I knew about this. It's not really that complicated, but I forgot about it again. So I'll come at that anyway. But so I don't think he's going to be activated anymore. I think we're going to have to find a different general. But well, that's a wee fix to make. Anyway, let's just say he's in the AG head of the combat for this Western faction. Now you can see that there's no number there, so there's not going to be a combat. So the part that says you then, after drawing this card, you then activate and select your generals that are going to be involved. But because there's no combat in there, you don't go through that step. But that highlights the fact that even if there's no combat, your general and your AG head, now you don't select a leading general for the combat because there's not going to be a combat, but if you use your AG head, it doesn't mention anything about the OB there, so I'm assuming they cannot affect this at all. I never quite got a reply from Carlos regarding my last little bit, just to confirm that. I mean, it seems to say it's just Kesselring and the other guy that do the combat, so I just wanted it sort of clarified for sure. I may be asking a daft question there. Anyway, back to this. If he's the AG head, he can still cancel the special effect. So although we're not having a combat, we're meant to have, and that is a reduction. You've got to take a reduction from one of the armies in that area, and that is drawing a strategic event card. So he would cancel the reduction. Cancel the reduction special effect, and then all that would happen was there'd be a strategic event card drawn. So that still applies. So even though that you're not looking at generals, they can still be involved in the if they're an AG head. Okay, so that was a good one. I'd forgot about that. So thanks for that one. Baredas, if that's it. He also followed up, and I must have been speaking about this as well. He said he asked about this on BGG as well, whether you can choose any AG head's ability if two are present. I want to say that I maybe looked this one up myself, but I must have been talking about it at the time. So let's just say you've got two AG heads in Poland there, and you know you're involved in a combat. Which one do you use? And he had asked, and it was replied to him that you need to use the highest seniority one. I think I did come across that myself later in the playthroughs, and but anyway, thanks for the comments. Let's see. I think there was a few more. Hang on. So a few of his comments. This is from part 7. Again, he's got time stamped. Yeah, you know what? There's no point in me talking about that. The special effect segment happens before the combat roll. So a general that can affect the combat roll cannot affect anything that happens before or after this step in the combat phase. Yeah, I think I worked that one out as well. But I may have left these questions in there, so he's just obliging by answering them. So this comment, he talked before about, he mentioned a comment before about you are meant to roll the allied dice first, and then afterwards I thought he'd also then said that he had just started rolling them together, but I don't know, I might be wrong with that. But this comment says, the game becomes a little more difficult or harder if you roll the combat dice separate. I didn't notice this until we reached the later years of the game when the allies roll more dice and the combats are harder. At this point, I started combining the dice rolls more, or at least allowed myself to reroll dice after all dice information was available. So you could use the rules as written as a harder, more difficult game, and have the option of making the game slightly easier by allowing yourself to roll the dice simultaneously. I think that's pretty good, actually. Sort of wish that had been an official kind of rule, but I'm going to continue. But I think more so in the later game, you're rolling dice quite a lot. And it means that I'm going to be rolling the allied dice, then separately rolling the Axis dice. So I think even for like just easiness, and while I'm trying to record it as well, it's just going to take longer. But I'm probably still going to stick by my guns and do it the way I've been doing it. This is at the 44-minute 50-second mark. I wish I'd went and looked at this one. I don't think you ever choose which armies are used in combat as such. Rather, you choose an area to do combat in. It's just, if the area you choose to attack isn't an area where you have armies, you need to choose an adjacent area instead. After combat, you choose which armies are moved into the attacked area. Yeah, well, but however, fair enough, that sounds okay. But if I'm attacking from, let's just say, Greece is still Western controlled. If I was attacking from Yugoslavia to Greece right now, and this is a mistake that I made way back, whether this is the bit I'm talking about or not, then I've got 4 armies there, and I'm only attacking into an area that's got a stacking limit of 3. So I can only attack with 3 of the armies. I can only use 3 of the armies to attack. So I don't know if this is about you. It might be that I'm not talking about this at all. I probably should go and click on the timestamp and have a look at it. Because I have to decide. I can only roll 3 dice, not 4. So I'm clearly going to pick the black and 2 greys. I mean, it's obvious. It's going to be obvious, I think. But so I think there you need to select which armies are involved. Of course, it could be me advancing as well, wondering if this satellite army could advance, because is he part of the combat? Maybe that's why he's saying that. Yeah, after combat, you choose which armies are moved into the attacked area. So maybe he's got something there. Maybe I could attack into that area, roll a black and 2 grey dice, succeed in the combat, and advance a black, a grey, and the yellow dice in. The yellow army, black army, and grey army in, and leave the grey army behind. I'm not sure. I think the time I done it, I felt like because that army wasn't involved in the die roll, that they weren't involved in the combat, and maybe they should be involved in the advance. But you could have something there. Well, maybe look more into that. I think that's it. I think that was all his comments. Right, so let's get... Carlos has left a comment here as well, though. Yeah. And this is a mistake. So this is from part 17. And he's got it timestamped at the 21-minute mark. And also that, well... Just to say here, Carlos, if you put another colon and 2 zeros after that, 118... Because if you put 118 in, if I click on that, it's going to come up at 1 minute, 18 seconds. So, and the actual timestamp is 1 hour, 18 minutes. But anyway, it's not a big deal. I worked it out. So, anyway, they two cases, and one was an attack in Spain. Fortunately, I talked about it, and then I didn't do it. So we got away with that one. The other one, however, was a defence in Turkey, maybe. And it was Klug, because he said that. I used Klug for the leading general. Well, like Carlos has said, the leading general must have lower seniority than AG head. And I know this is in the rules, because there's 2 parts to that. I'm wondering if it's in... See, the thing is, I'm getting used to using these cards. I wonder if, let me see, let's go to Axis Offensive, OB and AG Appointments. Oh no, that's Command Segment. Where's the Axis Offensive? There we are. Oh, you know what? It's a combat card, isn't it? Right, sorry, hang on. Yeah, so on the card it says activate participating generals. Let me show you here. So, and this is for the leading general. So let's just see if it does there. Combat. You must activate a leading general from the available generals pile with both the highest or second highest seniority rank and seniority lower than the activated head of the army group. Well, it is on the card, Grant, so you can't even get away with that one. So it's got to be lower. And was it no, it's Strauss. Where's Strauss? It's not Turkey. Where is he? Aye, Strauss is over there. He's got a seniority of 7. And I was talking about using List. Who's this guy? I was talking about using him, but there's another part to speaking about this as well. So when we were attacking into Barcelona, or was it? Yeah, no, it was Barcelona. So when we were attacking into Barcelona, I was wondering about using a List. Well, Strauss has got a seniority of 7, List has got a seniority of 7, and he needs to be lower than that, so I can't use him at all. But that's a mistake. That's something I've been forgetting. Okay? But the other part of this question was, I ended up not using him, and I used... I can't remember which one I used. Von Kleist, maybe? Yeah, I think it was Von Kleist. I can't remember, anyway. And Von Kleist is a 6, isn't he? Yeah, so I think it was okay. Anyway, but my query with this says if there is at least one regular Panzer army in the combat area, cancel additional allied die for rough terrain. So my sort of doubt, which I didn't think, I thought it was okay. My doubt was my armies are in this area, we're attacking into this area. So does he still get that effect that they're coming from there to there? And Carlos confirms that as to list, the combat takes place in Spain, so the armies are understood to be there. It just says you can't use him. You can use him, just not under Strauss, because Strauss has got the same seniority. It needs to be less seniority there. And that, I had to look back at my latest combats as well, because I've completely forgot about that rule. So, and the other one was von Klug. Now, I'm pretty sure it doesn't mention there. Oh, if I click on there, I'm pretty sure it was Turkey. No, he's von Reichenau's an 8 though, so it can't be. So it must have been here maybe. Well, we did have a combat here as well. Yeah, it must have been here, because he's got a seniority 7, and I used this general as a leading general for that combat. Well, that was wrong. So I'm going to put him back in available, and I'm going to have to pick a 6. So that means I've still got a 7. Oh, does that screw up things? Does that screw up any combats that I've just had recently? You know what, I might have done. Because have I used any... Well, no, I've not used any 5s. There's no 5s being used. So I'm alright. As long as it's 6. Because if I've still got a 7 available, it's either got to be a 7 or a 6 I use for them. So von Klug's going back, and I'm just going to pick somebody that's... oh. Alright, he's moved about. See, you need to be careful with that, Grant. So let's just take let's just take him. No, I'm just going to take him and hope that this is okay. He's one of the... I mean, no other general we've seen like this is Rommel as well, which only can be used in certain areas. So, but remember, going by what we've been told, these generals can be used in any combat. It doesn't matter if it's Soviet or Western, and it just means that all that's cancelled out. So I'm guessing I can still use him. It's just that his ability won't work. So he's the general that I would use in there, so he's now been activated. And he was a 6 seniority, which is less than von Beeks. Okay, good stuff. Oh no. Right. There is a 5. And I've got him up in another box here because he's been questioned. I wouldn't have been able to use him. So this must have been the last combat we had. Where did we have a troublesome combat? Was it in Libya? I think it was in Libya, wasn't it? Yeah, we had to take a reduction and we took a retreat, I think, and he got questioned. But because von Klug's now back in the available, I would not have been able to select him because he's a 5 seniority and it would have had to be in a 7 or a 6. Was he doing anything? Hang on. Yeah, he does work in defence. So roll 1 grey dice instead of 1 yellow die. Yeah, it was him, wasn't it? So I wouldn't have been able to do that. Damn it. That's annoying. Right, so bit of a dilemma here. I was just looking back on the die roll there. And because we had used this guy, he upgraded one of the yellow dice to a grey dice. We also got... This was grey as well. Remember, we've had a reduction here. So we ended up with 2 grey and a yellow dice, but we also had, what's his name? Kesselring. and we were defending in El Algelia, which is rough, which gives us an extra white dice, which turns that into a grey. So we actually rolled 3 grey dice and a yellow dice, and we ended up with 1 hit and 2 events on the 2 grey dice. So I either just leave this guy questioned, or I put somebody else in play, but I can't really change the die roll. It means that I'm... because I drew 2 strategic events for it. I mean, to be honest, the two of the 3 grey dice were events, so you know, if I went back and re-rolled everything again, you might end up with a better result for me, to be honest. So do I just leave it, but do I make this guy not questioned and pick another general? That's the thing. But then I would have been rolling a dice that... What I thought I could have done was use Rommel, but we wouldn't have... I don't think we would have used Rommel knowing that this was going to be a tough fight and with a chance of losing them, well, getting a defeat, which we ended up with a defeat, and then Rommel wouldn't have came back. And not only that, Rommel would then be questioned, and yeah. Well, mind you, Rommel's got a 6, so the unlikelihood I'm going away. Or did I just leave this guy gone? See, I'm starting to think that I might have put... Because we hadn't used him. Then I would have just used him to get rid of the 7, but maybe that's not the case. I think Rommel is the only one that would have done anything for me. Aye, well, he is. Out of the 7s and 6s I've got, Rommel is the only one that would have done something for me. I'm not so sure I would have used them. And with that, I think I might have just chucked this guy in, just to get rid of that 7. And remember, there's no AG head in this area for this combat, so my understanding there's no AG head, so it doesn't matter what seniority the leading general is. I would take that as it is. Or we could just leave this guy, because he did give us the die roll, although I shouldn't have been able to play him. Maybe I just do that. Maybe I just leave him. Yeah, I don't like doing that, but either way, whatever way I do it, I'm sort of like not doing things properly, am I? If I leave this guy in play, he shouldn't be able to get played. If I put the other guy in play, then technically I should really go back and redo the combat, because this wouldn't have applied. This combat ability wouldn't have applied, and we would have been rolling 1 grey die. Yeah, 1 grey die. No, 2 grey die instead of 3, and 2 yellow dice. That's what I would have been rolling. Can you go back and just roll that then? See, the thing is, I've drawn 2 events though, because 2 of the results were 2 events. Right, look at this. I wish I'd put the camera on to roll it. I thought, let's go back. What would I be rolling if I wasn't, if I realised I couldn't use that guy, and let's just say we chucked Von Kluge. I think I'm going to do this. And I just rolled these dice, right? And you never seen them, me roll them, but that's a perfect result right here. Because the result was 1 hit to us and 2 strategic events. However, I had rolled 3 grey die and 1 yellow because I thought we were using him. I'm going to take this, right? I'm going to take this. And I genuinely did just roll him, but it was off camera. So I'm going to put him back. He's not going to have been questioned. I'm going to put him back because we shouldn't have been allowed to use him as a leading general in this combat. And I'm going to say that we played this guy, and that is going to be our die roll. Okay, I know it's pretty poor, I know, but it's fixing it either way is going to be kind of rubbish, and it did just happen that I rolled the dice exactly the same. See, the thing is, because I've drawn 2 events, I can't really rewind that, so we need the result to be 2 events, and as long as I got 1 hit, then that's everything as is. So let's just say that's what happened, okay? So we used him. Now he is the one that was the leading general, so he's questioned. So well, it's not his counter. We need Von Kluge. Now he's got a better chance of surviving the questioning because he's got a 4. Let me find his counter though. Right, okay. Eventually found him. Right, there's Von Kluge. So he's questioned. So to flip that over there. And yeah, I know it's not a great fix. It's about the best I can do. Okay, so that's that. So we're at 25 minutes. Yeah, this whole part's probably just going to be blithering about stuff. Well, hopefully I can just skip by this next bit quickly and try and move past it quickish. Right, so I'm not going to read this whole thread that I created. There's the heading of it, operational movement to another front. And my question was, when using operational movement to move to another front, do you need to start your move adjacent to the other front? Well, this is the thing that Martin mentioned, and I thought, well, I hadn't thought about it that way at all. But he could be right. Martin's quite right about a lot of things. Most things. Sorry, Martin. Yeah, I mean, it's here's my thinking on it, right? Let's hang on. Let's open up the rule in the rule book for it first. Right, so, and it's 4.21 operational movement we're talking about. And the question is, I mean, the perfect place to be looking at this is in Northern Italy, right? I'm in operational movement right now, and I had no issues in thinking that if I'm activating, sorry, hang on. Yeah, if I was activating the Southern Front right now, then I had no problems with saying, right, let's just say I've got 3 movement in the Southern Front. Okay. Now, I can move these armies from area to area. They don't need to be adjacent as long as it's German-controlled disk in that area. So I could move this from here to here. Actually, that's overstacking, so probably not. From here to here, from here to here, from here. Anything in that front. And I could also move it from here to here, right? Now, they're things that you can do. Now, this is where, if you think about these things as 2 different bits of movement, let's read it. Let's read what it says. And this is the 3rd and 4th paragraph in operational movement. Can I get it on? I think I may have been looking at it. I mean, you're going to get a strange angle for it, but it's in the rulebook on page 15, under 4.2 operational movement. So, and it's these 2 paragraphs in the bottom. So this paragraph says, the head of operations may move armies from any area to any other area in the same front with an axis control disk, even if the area is neutral. Right, and I've just talked about that. Armies cannot be moved to or from areas with an isolated marker. You cannot move armies to bases. Okay, that's one thing that you can do. Now, could it be that this word, additionally, is far more important than I maybe thought of it? Because these are 2 separate things, and the designers confirmed that this is something that's separate completely. And I'll talk about it in a second. It says, additionally, the head of operations may move armies from one area in a front to an adjacent, I mean it's in bold, right, to an adjacent area in a different front with an axis control disk, even if the area is neutral. These movements count against the movement limit in the starting front. So, I mean, I read both of them, and my take on it was that I could, let's just target this reduced army, I could move this, like I say, from here to here. That's one movement, right? But my take also on this was that I could move this from here to here for one movement. Now, I'm now adjacent to this other front. That's how I read it. That's how I read that rule, that I'm now adjacent to that other front, and I can then continue using my southern operational movement points to move that from there to there. And that's what I've done. This is when Martin said, don't you need to start here in your operational movement phase to be able to make that move. Well, apparently the designers confirmed that you do need to start there. But then I have to say, and I have replied to him, that I really do think the wording could be clearer there. There's certainly one, Bard, who's commented a few times on the, he's asked a lot of questions, BGG, whatever. He seemed to be under the same impression as me with that, and I can guarantee that there's a lot of people playing this game. I mean, well, you say you can guarantee, Grant, you can't really, but I'm pretty sure there's a lot of people playing this game that would read that as the way I've been reading it, and Bard that's commented there. But who knows, maybe not. Martin certainly thought, don't you need to be adjacent? Now, he didn't say, look, you need to be adjacent. It says that in the rule. He says, he was questioning it a little bit, and that's why I had to ask the question. So rather than read through all this thread, but let's, Carlos's first comment was, yes, you need to start adjacent. Otherwise, adjacency would not be an issue and would not be mentioned as a prerequisite. Well, I challenge that. I don't read that as a prerequisite. If it said in the rules, the prerequisite is you need to start adjacent, then fair enough. But it doesn't. I mean, it mentions that you need to be adjacent to make the move. But I could just as easily be adjacent by going from there to there first, and then I'm adjacent. Now, there's an argument to that, and I wanted to talk about this as well. I know for a fact that I can't move this from here to here. So it's clear that I need to be in here to be able to make that move. So, isn't that, does that not make it clear that you need to start there? To me, it still doesn't, but that might just be me. Other people might sort of say, well, if you can't move from there directly to there, you need to be here to do it. But, I can get there by doing that. So I think that should be clearer. However, we've had the confirmation of it. Now, I'm not going to go back and try and rewind anything that I've done in that. I'm not, because, I don't know if there's much or not, but I'm not even sure Martin left a timestamp to that bit. He might have done right enough when he first commented. But I'm not going to go back and look at that. I'm going to leave it. But from now on, I will do that. If I'm going to move from the southern front to the western front, I'm going to have to be in here to start with. Fair enough. My suggestion, my reply to Carlos was, I suggest that you have it written that, that it needs to start there. Then that is clearly a prerequisite for me. Like, I just don't see it as being clear as a prerequisite anyway. But again, might just be me. He carries on, this rule was included to avoid weirdness of having to go through the strategic movement box to move from Romania, Bulgaria into Greece, for instance, but the bulk of interfront movements must still go through the strategic movement box. Well, I'm not really sure that I'm keeping on top of that. Then he also carries on, actually, I did not realise that players could use this rule to move satellite armies in the Western Front. I'm a bit baffled by that, because even knowing now that the rule is that you need to start here, right? If I'm sitting like that, right, hold on. They're not satellite armies, Grant, are they? But, right, okay. Let's take these two out of Romania, Bulgaria for now, and just remember that they were there. So, if I'm just moved into my operational movement phase, or my movement phase, and I'm sitting like that, there's nothing to stop me if I've got 2 movement points to go like that. And I'm a little surprised that the designer didn't think that people would do that. However, historically that's inaccurate. He does say that right, let's carry on. I said I wasn't going to read this whole thread, but it looks like actually, I did not realise that players could use this rule to move satellite armies into the Western Front. If I had, I would have forbidden that. And I said to him, I says, well, I think you should. And he carries on, I didn't include this in errata. Well, I would include it in errata if you didn't want to. If you wanted to forbid that, because it's quite clear that you can. I mean, am I missing something else? It's quite clear that if they're sitting in there, they can move into southern France. You know, I don't know. I suggested that to him too, that he does do errata, and what he said is he mentioned it as a sort of optional rule for folk to use, and because he carries on more about the benefits to having satellite armies there and not there, and then also when the Allies start coming back at the Axis, these are going to be a weak force over there. So there's a plus and a minus to it. There's a plus at the beginning and then a minus to it at the end. So fair enough. He says, however, those players who wish to play with more historical rules can add this sentence to the paragraph. Satellite armies can only be moved to the Eastern Front using this procedure. So it means that they can only be moved to the Eastern Front. I suggested that. Why not just have them that whatever movement you're doing, they can only go to the Eastern Front. That's the only front they can change to. And like I say, Bard he was surprised to hear this answer as well. He didn't realise that could happen. And then so I replied with my comment. I'm not going to go over it all though, but he replied to that as well, thanks to the advice and the wording. A rule that an army can only be moved once in a given movement segment would be even more effective. I would consider it if or when a reprint is decided on. Yeah, that would fix it as well, but as long as it was clear that these were two separate movement methods, which, although they're split up, they're two paragraphs, and the second one starts with additionally, I would make it clear that these are, you can either do this or this, you know, either do this movement from area to area, or this movement from adjacent front to adjacent front. As long as you make that clear. He carries on, as to the prohibition to move satellite armies to Western Front, I did not think it was worth including as an erratum when I first saw it happen, and I have not changed my mind since. This is quite good actually, what he's written all here. This makes a lot of sense. I'll quickly read through it. It is true that only German troops were used as garrisons in the Western Front, but it is not a game breaker. So, I mean, he'll know the history better than me, and a lot of most of you out there probably know the history better than me as well. So I wasn't aware of that. I didn't know if these could have been armies from Italy and whatever over in the Western Front, but he's saying that it was mainly German armies that were there. Yeah, so these satellite armies wouldn't be there. Yeah, because we've only got Italy and Romania and Bulgaria, haven't we? And you don't get in and out of Vichy anyways, so... Although, hang on. If you got Spanish ones, they could have came up. But we took Spain aggressively, didn't we? Anyway, it's not a game breaker, he says. So, fair enough. I mentioned it as an optional rule for those who like to stick to history. The satellite army restriction is really a matter of historical chrome, which I'm happy to leave up to players. In game terms, I think this strategy gives players a slight short-term advantage, 2 to 3 German steps in the Eastern Front in exchange for 2 to 3 satellite armies. Yeah. At the cost of symmetrically weaker defences in 1944 in the West, and be more vulnerable to the worst option of the surrender special effect, the white flag, in the USSR. In game balance terms, I'm okay with that trade-off. Yeah, and that's fair enough, actually. The explanation of that makes perfect sense. I wonder, see the white flag, does it? Surely it has to be a satellite army in the area, doesn't it? We've not came across that one, so... Eliminate one satellite army from the combat area. Yeah, okay. So, when you're up against the Soviets, that symbol might come up, and you've just got to eliminate one of your satellite armies. So, ideally, you don't really want to have the satellite armies involved, but you're going to be limited to what you can have. Anyway, it finishes off. I also think games take this is good as well. I also think games take a life of their own once they are published, and that is all right. Players should be free to explore their possibilities in ways we designers had not anticipated, unless they break the system, which is clearly not the case here, or even if you move one army in a front and then move it again to an adjacent front. Yeah, so he's saying that even if we'd done it that way, it's not destroying the game, it's not breaking the game. I understand though that some players need a ruling, and that is what I give as soon as I can. Right, so thanks for that, Carlos. Thanks for coming along and clearing all that up. Right, let's maybe just 20 minutes of gameplay so I can at least rather than just have this whole part talking about things, which I don't mind, but it's probably not what people want to watch, is it? I want to get these things all right, and okay, that's been a blunder down here, but whether I've dealt with that the best way, I was listening to some comments on a podcast today about what do you do when you realise you've done a rule wrong. What does it affect you? Do you bother? Do you just carry on? And I'm one that it really bothers me and want to fix it. Some of them you just can't fix perfectly, and whether that was the best way of doing it or not, I don't know. But we've done it that way anyway. Okay, I think I'm done talking about all that anyway, and are you, Grant? Are you sure? Yeah, I think so. Okay, so we were on our military directive check. That's what phase we're on. We have one military directive card that we played. Weissung 25, Invasion of Yugoslavia. And we succeeded in taking Belgrade, which means we get air naval control on the eastern front by +1. Let's just double check. We have got Belgrade, got control. So air naval control in the eastern front +1. Up to 3. And then this card's done. Again, there's a wee recycle on that, but I think we read that, because you can't come back and take Belgrade again, can you? I dare say it could be taken away from you though. But no, my understanding is that if you haven't achieved this goal, then it recycles. If you have, then it just goes away. That's my take on it. Nobody said anything differently about when we talked about that before. So that's that going. Military directive check done. Right, on the supply. Oh, yeah. This isn't going to be good. Because our air naval control on the southern front got slaughtered. Big style. Down to a 1. So again, we're only worried about this supply in here, but this is looking grim. So, mind you, I say it's looking grim. I want to say that these armies as they are all still fight as they are. I think it's only Panzer and regular armies that get reduced. I will double check that one, but I think that's what I recall reading. So, remember, you need a 7 on a dice to get keep this port open. We get a +1 only for that, because it's only in the 1 box. However, we do have Gibraltar for another +1, and Crete for another +1. So we've got a +3, but we need a 7, so that means we need a 4, at least. Alright, come on. Be nice. Yes! Excellent. Okay, so maybe we can try and get our southern front air naval control bumped up a bit as well for the next time we have to do that. So port stays open, no isolated marker. Yeah, everyone's fine, yeah. Right, and then victory check, there's not going to be any of that. I'll put that back to the beginning, but before we... Oh, no you won't. You'll put it back to there. Because this is the summer, and this is our moving into our second operations phase of the summer. So we're going to suffer through all that again. Yeah, I'm probably not going to have my air naval control moved up. No, because there's still going to be 3 combat checks in the southern front as well. Nasty. Okay. Right, strategic warfare. Oh, we kept that at 3 then. That's strategic warfare, right? Yeah. So let me get to that. Let's back to the beginning here. Strategic warfare. Right, hang on. Right, yeah, so we're sitting at a 3. Production's at a 1, so that gives us the grey dice out of the 3 and 2 white dice. That goes into the cup, and then we're going to draw a combat card for the Allies for 1941. Strategic event. Strategic warfare 1941. They're getting 2. So they're getting 2 dice. That card goes away. 2 blue dice. Right. I've been very lucky with this roll recently, have we? Been rolling an awful lot of aircraft for them, so. Right, here we go. Let's see what we got. And then we get 1 again. Oh, and a terrible roll from us again. So the USA are not in the war, but this is one hit. And yeah, I'm pretty sure we need the hit symbol, don't we? We do indeed. That's no effect for us. One hit to them. So we can either take it on strategic warfare or the German air naval control in the Germany box. I would take strategic warfare. Yeah, we clearly do. So we take one there. It is only just a one. The difference in hits was a one to them. And there was no events or anything like that. Nothing more to look at there. Okay. Well, it could have been worse, I suppose. Right, movement. Okay. Now, let's do our movement properly then. Now that we know some other things. So it was still clear, even though Martin had a bit of back and forth conversation with Carlos about this, that we could still move into another front, then continue moving. However, we would need to start from the front we were moving from into there, right? So I've nothing in Northern Italy, which is kind of annoying because this kind of time, what's our Eastern is at 3. Well, yeah, you've done Yugoslavia now. You can at least maybe get this satellite army in there. My intention is to move the satellite armies into there. The designer, it's built into the rules. He said he's not going to errata that, so that's fine. I'm going to just play it as the rules. I'm not one to like house rule or optional rule anything like that. Not for now anyway. So well, what are we trying to do? We've got the fall to come. With no more, well, apart from Barbarossa, with no military objectives, military directive cards, so we're really just kind of going to be moving things about, and I suppose you've got the winter and spring. Well, mind you, when we get in the winter, we're going to be able to select some new cards. How about, that's not cheating, is it? Looking at the possible military directives that we're going to be looking at in 1942. Well, there's going to be a bucket load, Grant. Yeah, there's a lot. Well, there's a lot when you consider we've still got some from 1940. And how many of these do we get? We get 5, don't we? Let me just have a look and see what I might think about. Well, clearly you're going to have Barbarossa, aren't you, as one. So probably going to have to select this again. I can't let it go to 1943. I'd really like to have this, now that I understand this a bit better. Yeah, because then I can attack from the Middle East into Egypt, can't I? So I'd quite like to have that. I'm not interested at all in Great Britain. Barbarossa 2 I can't do. Conquest of Malta, I'm not really interested in either. I mean, yeah, you could do it. You need to control southern Italy, which we do. But the whole amphibious invasion stuff is pretty tricky. You don't get many armies involved and whatever. I don't think I'm probably going to do that. Conquest of Gibraltar, we don't need because we got that. Conquest of Moscow, we need to have control of 2 areas, and then the other ones you need to have played that card. Then Fall Blau, Conquest of the Caucasus, Conquest of Leningrad, and right actually you've only got 2 cards, Grant. So there's the other possible card. What is that? Conquest of Iran and Iraq. That just controls Egypt, Turkey, or Caucasus. Well, that would be good for us, but I mean, once we're in there, we're going to get attacked by the Soviets in that area anyway. But they're attacking both. Well, I suppose Egypt's attacking there anyway, but it would ease off Turkey if we took that. So I'd probably take that card as well. So that would be only 3. So yeah, there's not. Well, yeah, you just need to start preparing for Barbarossa, I think, Grant. That's really what it boils down to. So it looks like your military objectives are going to be here, and then Barbarossa. So does that help in any of your movement? Probably not. Okay, I was thinking at first I couldn't upgrade this because I can't overstack this area and then move into strategic movement because it checks the stack in there. You know, at first I thought, well, I could move one of these. Mind you, this is getting attacked too, Grant. I mean, these two areas are getting attacked. However, what I can do, if I can strategically move a regular army, or even a panzer army for that matter, then I could use my one movement. No, hold on, no, Grant, you can't do that. Because it's got enable... No, strategic movement doesn't come into that. Yeah, I can only move one army either into or out of that area in operational movement. So I could move this army out and then strategically move a better army in. If, you know... Where are you getting these armies from, Grant? Well, you've got Yugoslavia now tied up, so... You know, I could actually strategically move this from here to here and then to here. I think. That sort of makes some sense, doesn't it? So, 3 movement in the Eastern Front. I feel like I'd like to make this move. So that's 1. Now that was starting in the Eastern Front, adjacent. So he was starting adjacent, so that's legal. And what I still believe is legal is if I then go into my southern movement, I could then move that from there to there. Because that's adjacent. Well, there you go. Did this start adjacent? It didn't, did it? It started its southern front operational movement phase in there, adjacent, but it didn't start its movement adjacent. So I'm actually quite curious about that one. Would it be allowed for me to now say, right, I'm done with my eastern, let's move on to my southern, I've got 1 movement point, I'm going to move that to there. And then also move into my western front, say, right, I've got 2 movement, and then let's move that up to there. I don't know. Well, I don't have the movement points to do it anyway, so that is one of my 3 eastern movement. So, mind you need to leave something in there as well. Well, hold on. We don't need to leave things in here. So let's do that for 2. And I don't know. I think I'm going to get Poland set up. So I've got... Oh no, I've only got 1 more movement, Grant. I've done 1, 2... I've only got 1 more, sorry. That's a bit annoying then. Damn. No, you can't do that though. Right, okay. Right, well, it doesn't really matter then, does it? Right, I'm going to do that for 3. And then... Well, that's my 3, isn't it? That's that. Right, fair enough. So that's Eastern movement. So southern movement, I only got one. And I'm going to do this. I'm going to move... Well, where are you going to move this to? Now, hold on. Stop. You can only have one German army. Well, as long as it moves out of Italy, that's fine. So, you know, it can move... Well, it can't go in there. It can't go in there. It's going to have to go in Greece, isn't it? Or I strategically move it, of course. Is that not going to be a better idea? Probably is, actually. Yeah, I don't think I'm going to use any southern front operational movement. Western, no, can't really. Can't move any of the single armies because they're all partisans. Don't really want to do anything with that. Yeah, I mean, we took a reduction here as well, didn't we? No, you could do that, I suppose. 1, 2, 3, 4. I don't know if I've got enough movement for that when I think about it. Right, let's just move into strategic and strategical. So if I was to move both of them into there, 1, 2, that into there's 3, that into there's 4. No, I'm not going to have enough. Unless, what you could do is, hang on, backtrack a little here. Backtrack a little. And for my western operational movement, I'm going to move that into there. Right, now strategic. Strategic, I've got 5. So that's 1, 2 into here. Von Rundstedt goes away. I better take his card out of there as well. He's available. So that's 1, 2. I've got 3 more to do. Still strategic movement. That's 3. And then 2 more. I'm going to move this into here, which is fine. All that was strategic movement. And although there's only one allowed to make that move operationally, there's no restriction strategically. So I was thinking about the Panzer Army, but I don't know, maybe you should put the Panzer Army there, and then well, it just means I've wasted moving things about there. Because I'm not going to be able to keep that. I don't know. Okay, I've got one more left. I'm just going to do what I'd planned and put that in there then, strategically. We've got 2 regular armies, reduced armies still in the strategic movement box. He would have stayed in charge, wouldn't he? Yeah. That's this one instead that moved. Well, now I've got an AG hid in Greece as well, but that was like that anyway. Okay, right, I think I'll leave it at that. Yeah, I don't know. I wonder if I should add the Panzer Army in Libya, but right, let's just go with that. Right, so command. I'll do that and then I'll cut the part, I think. Yeah. So, hang on. Right, so we've only got vacancy here in Yugoslavia. No, I've done that again. Moved armies out and then think it creates a vacancy. Now there's not. There's no vacancies, is there? I keep having this thing about if I move armies out, it creates a vacancy, but that's not the case. The whole reason the general goes away is because there's not enough armies there, Grant. We've only got 4 up here. Yeah, I thought I might have been able to get von Rundstedt in here, but I didn't have enough movement because I was going to put a 5th army into there. But well, hold on. Why don't you strategic? Yeah. Oh no, I'd run out of points, didn't I? Yeah, I moved 1, 2, 3. 4. Yeah, sometimes you got to watch and you start moving things about, eh? That's fine. I'll just leave that then out. I can fix that later. Right. So there's no. Oh, no. We've got a question general, haven't we? Yeah. This is the first time we've had this. So we've got Von Klug here. Let's get his counter down here and have a look. So he's questioned because he was he should have been the leading general in that combat. And that die roll was done, although done off camera, was how I done it, honestly. Trust me. Not that matter, I was rolling it and thinking, right, what outcomes could I have? And it just happened to turn up that was the perfect outcome and not have to make any alterations at all. But yeah, easy to say, I know. So roll 1d6 for each question general. Right, and it's his confidence value, so that's a 4. So if the result is greater than his confidence, the general is dismissed, and rest is given +1, and we draw 1 black orchestra card. If it's equal to his confidence value, so if we roll a 4, the general becomes a dissident. If already a dissident, the general is dismissed. Unrest +1, draw 1 black orchestra card. So hang on. It's written all in the one bit that. So let me just make sure. If it's equal, if the general belongs to the dissident's interest group, well, we're not dealing with that, or there is a dissident marker, at least I don't think we are. So hang on, does that come into it there? I don't think we were, that's these symbols there, isn't it? I don't think they apply in the solo game. I mean, he's not a dissident anyway, but I'm not sure what they're called. What are they called? Interest group. Ignore this features in cooperative and solitaire games. Oh, that's odd. That's odd then. Because if it's in cooperative as well as solitaire, then this is the cooperative and solitaire rulebook, and it says there that if the result is equal to the general's confidence factor, if the general belongs to the dissident's interest group. So sure, that doesn't apply. That shouldn't be there, I don't think. Please tell me if I'm getting that wrong and this still does apply. If he's part of the dissident's interest group. I mean, it does say it says at the beginning of the book there. It tells you there, it shows you what that is, interest group, and then interest group there, it says ignore this feature in cooperative and solitaire games. So I'm going to have to say that maybe shouldn't be written in there then. Let me know if I'm wrong. So anyway, but if I roll equal to and there's a dissident marker already on him, he is dismissed. See the next bullet point. Otherwise, the general becomes a dissident. You place a dissident marker on the general's marker. You add 1 to the unrest value, and the general's only player draws a black orchestra card and places it on the black orchestra card space on his board. Number of dissident markers is an absolute limit. If there are no available dissident markers, the general is dismissed. Now, I want to say it looks like there's only 3 of them, I think. So, something to keep in mind. Right, so that does say... See next bullet point. Yeah, so even if he becomes a dissident, you do actually add 1 unrest and draw a black orchestra card as well. And then the final result is the one that we're wanting. If the result is lower than the general's confidence factor, the general stays in his position, flip his marker to its regular side. If the general's marker had a dissident marker on it, it remains in place. Okay, so we are wanting less than a 4. Or a 4 at worst case scenario, but we'd just like less than a 4, really. Right, here we go. And we get a 6. Okay, that's not good then. Right, that's Von Klug away then. So he's dismissed. Probably take his marker away as well. So if it's higher than, general is dismissed, remove his marker and card from the game. Place a vacancy marker in the AG head or OB head box where the marker was. Well, he wasn't, he was just a leading general. Add 1 to unrest, and the general's only player draws a black card and places it in the black card space on his board. If the general's marker has a distant marker on it, return the distant marker to the box on the game board. The marker is available for use again. Right, okay, so he's been dismissed. I'll just put him up there with his marker. And that's that. And with no vacancy to fill because he was just, like I say, a leading general. Unrest is going up by +1. So that goes up to there. And we draw a black orchestra card off the top. Right, I'm not sure if you look at these or not. So I'm not. Where do these go? Is there a place for these? Or is that the place for them? Places it on the black orchestra card space on his board. Well, that's a space there, so I think these should actually be just down here, maybe. Just somewhere else. And that's where the cards go that accumulate. And then when there's a queue, we do something with the card. I think what you do is you shuffle them up and then draw them one at a time and see what the number it turns out. Something like that. So that was question general. That was only question general we had. No vacancies to fill. So that's it. So, well, we're going to move into Axis offensive. But there's not going to be a one. We don't have a military directive card. A black Axis combat point is placed in each area listed in the military directive card that has a disputed marker. Yeah, there's none of them. But we already had started the summer and yeah, there's no. It says if no available combat pawns are placed, reduce the fanaticism value by 1 and discard the active military directive. Well, we've not got one, so we skip by that. And then we're into the Western offensive, and I'm going to just cut. I'm probably just going to come right back and get the next part started. Right. Sorry if this was a bit long-winded, this one, just talking about some rules that popped up and things that I got wrong and whatever, but I do like to try and keep on top of that if I can. Okay, I'll be back soon with the next part. Cheers.